The Odyssey lurched through the black void of space, the crew bracing for impact as the Veric fleet closed in from behind. The unknown signal pulsed on the ship's radar, a beacon in the infinite darkness. Evelyn stared at it, her mind whirling. This could be the breakthrough they needed, or it could be a trap. There was no time to waste. She couldn't afford to question the signal now, not when every second counted. "Kira, keep the course steady," Evelyn ordered, her voice steady despite the storm of thoughts raging in her mind. "Mark, prepare the weapons. If we get too close, I want to be ready for anything." "Aye, Captain," Kira replied, her hands moving swiftly over the console to lock in their course. Her face was pale, but her focus was unwavering. "We're on course, Captain," Kira added, glancing up from her station. "But there's something strange. The signal's emanating from an uncharted moon, no more than a few light years away. No known human ships are in that region. It's as if the universe forgot this place," Evelyn muttered under her breath. "But it's our only shot. Bring us in." The ship surged forward, the tension palpable in the air. As the Odyssey neared the moon's orbit, the distorted signal grew stronger, now unmistakably human in its pattern. It was a coded message, repeating in broken bursts, too fragmented for Kira to decipher completely, but enough to know they weren't the only ones left. What if it's a trap? Lieutenant Sanders asked from his tactical station, his voice carrying the weight of doubt. It could be a lure. They could be setting us up. Evelyn's gaze never wavered from the screen in front of her. "We don't have the luxury of waiting for another chance, Mark. If the Varick catch us, we're dead anyway. We have to take the risk." The moon ahead was barren, a grey, desolate sphere, its surface covered in jagged cliffs and cratered valleys. The Odyssey descended into its atmosphere, the engines howling as they slowed their approach. The ship passed through a turbulent cloud layer, and Evelyn's grip on the control panel tightened as the sky above darkened, the stars barely visible. The crew waited, silent and tense. The Veric fleet loomed far behind, their dark ships like spectres in the distance. The seconds dragged on like hours. Then they saw it. A massive structure rose from the surface of the moon, a crumbling, ancient city built into the side of a cliff. It looked like something out of Earth's prehistory, yet more advanced, its design strange and alien. The signal had led them here, but who had left it? And why? "Captain, there's something odd about this city," Kira said, her voice tight with uncertainty. "The structures, they don't match any known human architecture. This isn't just a military installation. It looks like a place of research." Evelyn's heart raced. Was this an ancient human outpost? A forgotten relic of their past? Or was this the work of another alien race altogether? "We're landing," Evelyn decided, her eyes sharp. "Prepare yourselves. We don't know who, or what, we'll find." The Odyssey settled onto the surface, the ship's landing gear crunching against the moon's rocky ground. The crew assembled in the airlock, weapons drawn and faces grim. Evelyn's mind raced with possibilities. She had to make the right call. This could be their salvation, or it could be the beginning of the end. "Stay sharp," she instructed as they filed out, their boots hitting the cold surface with quiet echoes. "We're walking into the unknown, and I don't trust it, but we need answers." The crew moved cautiously across the barren expanse. The moon's desolate landscape stretched out before them like a tomb. The city's towering structures loomed in the distance, but there was no movement, no signs of life. It was as if the place had been abandoned for centuries. As they approached the entrance of the largest building, A loud, grating noise echoed from within. The door to the building slid open with a hiss, revealing a dimly lit interior. The walls were lined with ancient, cryptic symbols, and strange devices hummed faintly in the shadows. Evelyn stepped forward, her breath shallow. There was something deeply unsettling about the place. "What is this place?" she muttered to herself, but then the unmistakable sound of a voice echoed from the darkness. "Welcome, Captain Hayes," it said, the words somehow echoing in her mind more than in the air. "We've been waiting for you." The voice echoed through the chamber like a whisper carried by the wind, but its cold precision sent a chill down Evelyn's spine. The words weren't just spoken, they were felt, as if they reverberated in the depths of her mind. She instinctively reached for her sidearm, her crew following suit, but Evelyn held her hand up to stop them. "Wait," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't fire. We're not alone, but we don't know who, or what, is here." The air around them seemed to hum with energy, a strange and ancient power that was foreign even to the trained eyes of the Odyssey's crew. Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest, her instincts screaming to retreat, but something in the back of her mind told her to press forward. This place, whatever it was, had answers they desperately needed. "Who are you?" Evelyn called into the darkness, her voice steady despite the rising unease. "What do you want with us?" There was a long silence before the voice returned. This time it was clearer, more direct, and oddly familiar. "We have watched you, Captain Hayes. Your struggle, your survival. You have awakened the path that was long buried, the road that will lead to redemption. You are the ones destined to stop the Varric." Evelyn's mind reeled. How could they know? How could anyone know about their mission, about the last remnant of humanity's fight for survival? Her eyes darted to her crew, who were equally tense, but none dared to speak. The silence was deafening as they waited for a response. Out of the shadows, a figure appeared, tall and slender, draped in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid metal. The being's skin was pale, almost translucent, its features delicate yet somehow not entirely human. It had the appearance of something ancient, ageless, yet undeniably powerful. Its eyes, glowing with a strange golden hue, locked onto Evelyn's, and for a moment she felt as if it could see right through her. "I am called Thalos," the figure said, stepping forward. "And we are the remnants of the Arcanid ancestors. We were once your allies, though you may not remember." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. The Arcanids, the ancient race that had fought the Varric long before humanity even knew how to look to the stars. They were legends, their species thought to be extinct. Yet here one stood before her, speaking of alliances that spanned beyond the galaxy, beyond history. "How do you know who we are? How do you know about the Varric?" Evelyn asked, her voice now tinged with suspicion. "What is this place? And why are you waiting for me?" Thalos' golden eyes flickered for a moment, and the air around them seemed to pulse with energy as it spoke. This place was once a sanctuary for those who sought to understand the path to ultimate power, the power that you, humanity, possess. The Varric's downfall lies not in your strength alone, but in the hidden potential of your species. The path to redemption begins with you, Captain Hayes, for you are the key to unlocking it. Evelyn took a step forward, her mind whirling. "What do you mean the key? We're just survivors. We've barely escaped the Varric. How can we possibly have the power to stop them?" Thalos' eyes softened, as though it could sense the doubts that plagued Evelyn's thoughts. "You are more than survivors. The Varric's greatest mistake was not destroying you when they had the chance. You, Captain Hayes, are the inheritors of a legacy that even they fear, the power to outlast, to adapt, to grow stronger with every loss. The Varric's own creators, the Zyron, feared this about humanity long before they turned their attention to your planet. The mention of the Zyron sent a shiver through Evelyn. She had heard stories about the ancient race who had once created the Varric, stories whispered among the few surviving elders of humanity. The Zyron were said to have been a race of unparalleled intellect and power, and their creations, the Varric, were their weapons of war. But if what Thalos was saying was true, humanity was tied to this dark history in ways Evelyn couldn't yet comprehend. Thalos continued, its voice almost gentle now. The Varric did not know the full extent of your species' potential, for your strength lies in the deepest corners of your soul. You will be the ones to bring an end to their reign. But first, you must learn the truth about your origins, about the technology that remains hidden in this galaxy, and about the secret weapons buried beneath the surface of your own planet. Evelyn's pulse quickened. Weapons, hidden technology. There was so much at stake, so much she needed to understand. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, but the truth was still shrouded in mystery. "How do we begin?" she asked, her voice resolute. "What do we need to do?" Thalos gave a small, cryptic smile. "You are already on the path, Captain Hayes. The first step is to awaken the relics scattered across this galaxy. The knowledge you need lies within them. You must go. But beware, for the Varric are not the only ones who will stand in your way." Before Evelyn could respond, the chamber trembled, a deep rumble shaking the very walls. Thalos' expression grew tense, and its voice became a warning. "They know you are here," it said. "The Varric are coming." Evelyn turned toward the exit, her pulse racing. The clock was ticking. The road to humanity's redemption had begun, and there was no turning back now. The air outside the ancient city was heavy with the scent of dust and decay as Evelyn and her crew hurried back toward the Odyssey. The ominous tremor that had rocked the chamber still echoed in her mind, a reminder that their time was running out. The Varric were coming, and whatever lay ahead on this new path, the crew had no choice but to follow it. "Kira, plot a course," Evelyn ordered as they climbed back into the ship's airlock. "Take us back into orbit. We need to regroup and figure out what's next." "Aye, Captain," Kira responded, quickly tapping away at her station's console. Her fingers moved with purpose, though Evelyn could see the tension in her face. They were all on edge. None of them knew what they had stumbled upon beneath that moon's surface. All they knew was that Thalos's words had struck a deep chord. Humanity was the key to ending the Varric. It was hard to believe, but Evelyn couldn't ignore the gut feeling that there was truth in those cryptic words. As the Odyssey ascended from the moon's surface and entered the cold, silent void of space, Evelyn turned to Lieutenant Sanders, who stood beside her, his expression unreadable. "I don't like this," Sanders muttered, breaking the silence. "We've barely survived the Varric's last attack, and now we're supposed to go after relics and weapons hidden across the galaxy. This is all." "I know, Mark," Evelyn interrupted, her voice quieter but firm. "But we don't have a choice. The Varric will never stop hunting us. We need whatever we can find to strike back, and if Thalos is telling the truth, humanity's survival depends on what we uncover next." There was no argument in Sanders' eyes, but the skepticism was still there. And Evelyn couldn't blame him. Everything they had been through, every battle fought, every friend lost, had brought them to this uncertain moment. But it was clear now that the stakes were far higher than anyone had anticipated. The Varric were not just conquerors. They were afraid of something. And whatever it was, humanity's potential was tied to it. "Captain," Kira's voice interrupted the tense silence. "I'm detecting a faint signal. It's not from the Varric, but it's close. It's coming from the direction of the Arcanid homeworld. Evelyn's pulse quickened. The Arcanids. They had once been allies of humanity, an ancient species with knowledge of technologies far beyond anything Earth had ever imagined. But the Arcanids had vanished, their colonies lost in time. No one had seen or heard from them in centuries. "Are you sure?" Evelyn asked, her gaze fixed on Kira's console. "How is that possible?" "It's faint, but the signal matches an ancient Arcanid frequency," Kira confirmed. "It's old, but it's definitely not a Varric transmission." Evelyn's heart pounded. The Arcanids had been their allies once, but with their sudden disappearance, no one had known what had become of them. And now this signal was calling them back to their origins. There was something here, a thread that could lead them to the truth. "We have to go," Evelyn said, her decision final. "Plot a course for the Arcanid homeworld. If the Arcanids are still out there, they might have answers. Answers that could help us stop the Varric." As the Odyssey shifted course, heading toward the ancient home of the Arcanid species, Evelyn turned to face her crew. They were all staring at her, uncertainty in their eyes. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about uncovering a hidden history, a history tied to the very fate of the galaxy. "Whatever we find," Evelyn continued, her voice steady, "we must be prepared. The Varric will be on our tail, and whatever forces the Arcanids left behind, we don't know what shape they'll take, but we'll face it together. We have no other choice." The crew nodded, their resolve hardening. The battle for humanity's future was far from over. The road ahead was shrouded in darkness, but one thing was certain: this journey would redefine them all. The Odyssey's engines roared to life as it entered faster-than-light travel, the stars warping around them in an eerie dance. Evelyn stood at the helm, gazing into the endless expanse of space. Behind her, the crew was tense but resolute. The Varric were relentless, but humanity's will to survive was unyielding. Suddenly, the ship shuddered as if caught in an unseen gravitational force, jerking the crew violently to one side. Klaxons blared, and the lights flickered. "Captain, we're being pulled off course," Kira shouted, her fingers desperately working the controls. "It's not the Varric, it's a gravitational anomaly. We're being sucked into something." Evelyn's heart raced. The signal had led them here, but where here was, she had no idea. "Brace for impact," she shouted, her voice filled with the urgency of the moment. The crew scrambled to secure themselves as the ship was pulled toward an unknown destination, the stars ahead of them vanishing as they were sucked into the heart of something ancient, something powerful. They were no longer on their own, and whatever awaited them, it was going to change everything. The Odyssey lurched again, the entire ship groaning as it fought against the unseen forces, pulling them deeper into the anomaly. Evelyn gripped the helm tightly, her knuckles white. The ship's systems flickered, flashing warnings in every corner of the control room, but Kira's face remained fixed with determination as she worked frantically to regain control. "We're not going to make it," Kira shouted, her voice tinged with panic. "The gravity well is too powerful. Captain, aye." Before she could finish, the Odyssey was wrenched violently from side to side, throwing the crew off balance. Evelyn's stomach dropped as the starfield outside the window stretched and twisted, becoming a blur of light and darkness. She heard someone shout, but the sound was muffled by the intense whine of the engines. "We need to activate the stabilizers." Sanders shouted, trying to keep his footing as he rushed to assist Kira at her console. "It's the only way we'll survive this." But even as Sanders scrambled to help, the force of the anomaly continued to tighten around them. The ship shuddered again, and Evelyn's eyes narrowed as she saw the readings on the console. The Odyssey wasn't just being pulled into a gravitational anomaly. It was being drawn into a massive rift in space, a tear in the fabric of the galaxy itself. The lights in the command center flickered and then went out completely, plunging the room into darkness. The ship's artificial gravity sputtered, and Evelyn felt her body being pulled upward before her feet found purchase again. Her heart raced as the familiar hum of the engines grew louder, warping and distorting with each passing second. "Captain." Kira's voice was urgent, almost frantic. "The anomaly, it's a spatial tear, a rift in time and space. There's no way we can control it." "Focus, Kira," Evelyn barked. "Get us out of this before we're torn apart." There was no time to lose. She knew this might be their final moment. The Varric were still on their tail, and if they didn't find a way out of the anomaly, they would be trapped, floating in the void, no hope of survival. But then, through the darkness, a faint light began to flicker ahead of them, weak at first, but growing stronger. "What's that?" Sanders asked, his voice steady despite the situation. "Is it another ship?" Evelyn's eyes snapped to the screen. The light wasn't a ship. It was something much larger. A massive ethereal structure, more ancient than anything she had ever seen, stood in the heart of the rift. The structure was like a fortress, its towers spiraling toward the sky, each one pulsing with a strange, unfamiliar energy. The Odyssey was still being pulled toward it, but the gravity well wasn't as overwhelming now. It was as if the rift itself was releasing its grip, allowing them to approach. She barely had time to process what was happening before Kira spoke again, her voice trembling. "Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures. Multiple life forms. They're inside that structure." Evelyn's heart raced. Life forms. But who, or what, could survive in such an alien environment? And how had they been able to maintain such energy in the heart of the anomaly? "Prepare for docking," Evelyn ordered, her mind racing. "We have no choice. We're going in." The Odyssey shuddered again, this time with less force, as Kira guided them toward the strange structure. The ship's engines sputtered as they neared, the light from the structure bathing the Odyssey in an eerie pale glow. Evelyn watched in awe and trepidation as the massive fortress drew closer. It was clear now that this wasn't just a building. It was a place of unimaginable power, its purpose lost to time. As the Odyssey's landing gear made contact with the surface, the structure seemed to respond, pulsing with energy. The moment they touched down, a low hum filled the ship, reverberating through the walls. For a brief, fleeting second, it felt as if the entire structure itself was alive, its very essence calling to them. "Captain," Kira whispered, her voice barely audible. "What is this place?" "I don't know," Evelyn said, her own voice barely above her breath. "But I'm about to find out." They gathered their gear quickly, their faces grin with anticipation. The doors to the airlock hissed open, and the crew filed out, stepping onto the cold, smooth surface of the structure. The air was thick with energy, and the ground beneath their boots felt oddly warm, as though the entire place pulsed with life. In the distance, a massive door loomed before them. It was adorned with symbols, similar to the ones they had seen in the Arcanid ruins, but these were far more intricate, glowing faintly with a blue light. Evelyn's pulse quickened. This place, this structure, it wasn't just a relic. It was a key, the key to understanding everything. Why humanity had been targeted, why the Varric feared them, and perhaps even the ultimate weapon that could bring an end to this endless war. "Stay close," Evelyn ordered, her voice resolute. "We need to find out who's inside." and what they want with us. The crew moved forward, their weapons raised, but Evelyn's mind was elsewhere. Every step they took brought them closer to an ancient truth, one that could reshape the fate of the galaxy. They reached the massive door, and without a word, it slowly creaked open before them, revealing the unknown. The door creaked open with a slow, grinding sound, revealing an expansive chamber beyond. The air inside was thick, electric, as though it had been waiting for them. The walls were covered in similar intricate symbols to those outside, glowing faintly with a pulsating blue light. There were no signs of life, no movement or sounds, only the hum of the structure itself, as though it was alive and aware of their presence. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat as she took in the vast expanse before her. The room stretched far beyond what the eye could see, its edges lost in shadow. Floating in the center of the room was an enormous holographic display, suspended in midair by an unseen force. It flickered with images that appeared and disappeared in rapid succession. Alien technologies, star maps, and ancient figures who seemed to be both human and something else. "What is this?" Sanders muttered, his voice reverberating in the eerie silence. His eyes were wide, scanning the hologram in awe. "I don't know," Evelyn replied, her voice tinged with wonder. She felt a deep pull toward the center of the room, as though the structure itself was calling her. "But whatever it is, it's important. It's the answer we've been searching for." The crew moved cautiously into the chamber, their eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. The symbols on the walls flickered with strange energy, reacting to their presence. It was clear that this place wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a living archive, designed to hold something far beyond the comprehension of anyone who might stumble upon it. As Evelyn approached the holographic display, the images shifted, suddenly focusing on a pair of figures. One appeared human, but the other, an alien being, was far more distinct. It had glowing ethereal skin, and eyes that shimmered with an intelligence far beyond human understanding. The alien figure reached out, its hand passing through the hologram, and the image froze. "Those are the Arcanids," Kira whispered, her voice tight with recognition. "But who is the other figure?" The hologram flickered again, showing the alien figure standing beside the human one, speaking in a language that Evelyn couldn't understand. The translation matrix, however, activated immediately, and the words appeared in the air before them. "We have forged the future together, as our ancestors intended. The enemy you face, the Varric, are not what you believe. They are the remnants of a long-buried secret, one that even we did not fully comprehend." Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. The words resonated in her mind, their implications far-reaching. The Varric were not just a threat. They were part of something much greater, something that transcended the conflict they had known. The Varric were created, the hologram continued, not by the Gyran, as you were led to believe, but by the ancient race of the architects. We, the Arcanids, were once their servants, but we turned against them. The Varric were meant to be a weapon, a tool of destruction. But you, humankind, you are the key to undoing their creation. Evelyn's heart raced as she processed the revelation. The architects, the Varric, the Gyran. Everything she had believed about the war, and about humanity's place in it, was a lie. The truth was far more complex, more tangled than she could have imagined. "We were betrayed," the hologram's voice continued as the human figure, now clearly shown to be an Arcanid, turned toward the other with a solemn expression. "But humanity will be the force that will destroy them. The architect's greatest mistake was thinking humanity would be a mere tool for destruction. You will prove them wrong. You will awaken the power that lies dormant within your species." The hologram flickered again, and suddenly, an image of Earth appeared on the display. But it was not the Earth that Evelyn knew. It was an Earth bathed in fire and destruction, surrounded by massive fleets of ships, each marked with the same symbols as the ones in the chamber. This wasn't just a vision of the past. It was a warning. "This is your future, Captain Hayes," the voice said, its tone heavy with finality. "This is what will happen if you fail. The architect's mistake was underestimating your potential, but you must act now. The Varric are already moving to awaken the architect's last weapon, the key to their domination of the galaxy. You must stop them before it is too late." Evelyn stepped back, her mind reeling. The weight of what they had uncovered pressed down on her, threatening to suffocate her. The Varric were not just invaders. They were the result of an ancient, catastrophic mistake, a tool of destruction unleashed by beings far beyond their comprehension. And now humanity was the only one capable of stopping them. How? Evelyn asked, her voice steady despite the storm of thoughts raging inside her. How can we stop them? The hologram shifted again, revealing a map of the galaxy. At its center, a glowing point pulsed, a dark energy that seemed to draw everything toward it. "Find the heart of the architects," the hologram instructed. "It is the source of their power. Only there can you destroy the Varric and prevent their awakening. But beware, your enemies are already on the move. Time is not on your side." The image faded, leaving the room in a deafening silence. Evelyn stood motionless, her crew behind her, each one processing the information in their own way. There was no turning back now. The true enemy had been revealed, and their ultimate weapon lay within reach. "We have to find it," Evelyn said finally, her voice firm. "The heart of the architects. It's the only way to end this. Let's move out." The room fell into an uneasy silence as Evelyn's words hung in the air. The weight of the revelation was too immense for any of them to fully process, but one thing was clear. They were now part of something far larger than they had ever imagined. The fate of humanity, the galaxy, and possibly all of existence rested on their next move. The heart of the architects was no longer a legend. It was the key to saving, or destroying, everything. "Captain, are we sure we can trust this?" Sanders asked, his voice low, but laced with suspicion. This thing we found. How do we know it's not another trap?" Evelyn glanced over her shoulder at her crew. Sanders wasn't wrong to question it. Everything had been a lie, from the origins of the Varric to their own understanding of the galaxy. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the hologram, or the figure within it, was telling the truth. There was too much at stake to second-guess it now. "I'm not sure of anything," Evelyn admitted, her voice firm, "but the stakes are higher than they've ever been. The Varric are already moving. If what we've seen is real, we don't have the luxury of hesitation." "Then we need to move quickly," Kira said, her voice tight with determination. "I've analyzed the data from the hologram, Captain. The heart of the architects is located in a system that's been wiped from all major star charts. It's almost as if someone wanted it forgotten." "Someone did," Evelyn replied, her eyes narrowing. "The architects. They didn't want anyone to find it. And now we know why." Kira turned to her console, fingers flying across the keys. "The system is located in the outer rim, near the coordinates where the Arcanids first made contact with humanity. It's deep in Varric-controlled space. If we go there, we'll be risking everything. But we don't have a choice. We'll need to fight through their blockade just to get close." "Then we fight," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "We've been fighting for years. This is no different. Get us ready, Kira. Plot a course." The crew moved with purpose, each member aware of the gravity of their mission. Sanders and his team began preparing their weapons and tactical gear, while Kira and the other officers worked to get the Odyssey ready for another battle. Time was running out, and every moment they'd wasted brought the Varric one step closer to claiming the heart for themselves. As the Odyssey powered up its engines and broke away from the ancient structure, Evelyn stood at the helm, her mind heavy with the weight of their mission. They were heading into the heart of enemy territory, into the unknown. But she knew they had no other option. The heart of the Architects was the only way to defeat the Varric, and if they didn't act now, it would be too late. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple Varric ships on the outskirts of the system," Kira reported, her voice tense. "They're converging on the coordinates. They must have already gotten wind of our presence." Evelyn's pulse quickened. The Varric were closing in, but she wasn't about to back down. They had no time to waste. "Ready all weapons," she ordered. "Prepare for battle." The ship hummed with readiness as it powered toward the system. The stars outside the window began to warp as the Odyssey entered faster than light travel, the crew bracing themselves for what was to come. Evelyn couldn't help but think of the lives they'd lost, their friends, their comrades, and how every step they took now was for them. When they emerged from FTL travel, the sight that greeted them was nothing short of daunting. The system was surrounded by a vast fleet of Varric ships, massive, imposing warships that dwarfed the Odyssey. It was clear they had prepared for this moment. The blockade was impenetrable, a wall of firepower meant to keep anyone from getting too close. "We're not turning back," Evelyn said, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "All hands to battle stations. We fight our way through." As the Odyssey powered forward, guns charging, the first wave of Varric ships closed in. They came in swarms, like locusts, fast, brutal, and relentless. The ship rocked as the first barrage of enemy fire hit, but Evelyn held firm at the helm. The Odyssey was built for combat, and though it was smaller and more agile than the Varric warships, it was no less deadly. "We've got incoming," Sanders shouted from his post, his voice commanding as he monitored the ship's systems. "They're using some kind of EMP pulse weapon. It's taking down our shields." "We'll manage," Evelyn growled. "Kira, return fire. We need to break through that blockade." The battle raged around them, flashes of light and explosions lighting up the darkness of space. The Odyssey weaved through the oncoming fire, dodging and returning fire in kind. Every hit they landed on a Varric ship sent a shockwave of satisfaction through the crew, but the Varric were relentless. They were fighting for control of something that Evelyn still didn't fully understand. And then, as they neared the center of the system, the true threat revealed itself. A massive Varric battleship, larger than any they had encountered before, emerged from the shadows. Its dark, jagged silhouette loomed over them, its weapons powering up. "This is it," Evelyn whispered, her eyes narrowing. "We're going in." The crew braced themselves as they prepared for the final push toward the heart of the Architects and the ultimate battle for the galaxy's future. The tension in the command center was palpable as the Odyssey hurtled toward the heart of the system. Evelyn stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the massive Varric battleship that loomed in the distance. It was the last line of defense, and it was more powerful than anything they had ever faced. But Evelyn knew they had no choice but to push forward. If they didn't, the heart of the Architects, the key to ending the war, would slip through their fingers. "Captain, they're locking onto us with their main weapons," Kira reported, her fingers flying across the controls. "Shields are at 30%. We won't be able to take much more." "We don't need to survive," Evelyn replied, her voice unwavering. "We need to make sure they don't." The words felt like a weight settling in her chest. She had led her crew through countless battles, but this one felt different. The stakes were higher than ever before. If they failed, the Varric would have free reign over the heart, and all their sacrifices would have been for nothing. "Sanders, get the gunners ready," Evelyn ordered. "We're going to need everything we've got." The crew scrambled into position as the Odyssey rocked again, a series of explosions shaking the hull. The Varric battleship had opened fire, its weapons unleashing a torrent of energy that slammed into the Odyssey's shields. Sparks flew from the consoles, and the room was filled with the acrid smell of ozone as the systems strained under the pressure. "Shields are failing," Kira shouted. "We've only got a few seconds before the next hit takes us down completely." "We're not stopping," Evelyn barked. "Kira, get us closer to that battleship. We need to get in range of their blind spot. If we can disable their primary weapons, we'll have a chance." Kira nodded, her hands flying over the console. The ship lurched again as they entered the heart of the battle, dodging incoming fire from smaller Varric vessels. Every movement felt like a gamble, every second counting. As they closed the distance, the massive Varric ship's weapons began to track them. The ship's hull groaned under the strain as the shields began to flicker, barely holding up against the relentless barrage. The Odyssey wove and darted, the crew's skill, and the ship's agility their only advantages. "Captain, they're targeting the engines," Sanders shouted, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "If they hit us now, we'll be sitting ducks." "Not on my watch," Evelyn growled. "Kira, full power to the engines. Push us forward." With a defiant roar, the Odyssey surged forward, its engines pushing it to the limit. They were within range now, and Evelyn could feel the moment of truth closing in. They had to make this shot count. "Now, Sanders," Evelyn called. Sanders's finger hovered over the weapon controls, firing. The ship's forward guns blazed to life, a brilliant beam of energy shooting out toward the Varric battleship's exposed flank. The blast hit with pinpoint accuracy, shaking the massive ship as its outer hull erupted in a burst of sparks and flames. But the Varric ship wasn't finished. It returned fire, and this time the Odyssey's shields flared and buckled under the intense impact. "Shields are gone," Kira shouted, hull integrity at 60%. "We've got to keep pushing," Evelyn said, her voice a steel thread of determination. "Kira, target their main reactors. If we disable their engines, we'll cripple them." Kira's eyes widened. "That's a dangerous move, Captain. If we hit the wrong spot—" "I'm willing to take that risk," Evelyn interrupted. "We need to end this now." The ship shuddered again as a massive explosion rocked the Odyssey, but they held their course. The Varric battleship was slowing, its engines damaged by their previous shot. Evelyn saw her opening. "Fire at will," she commanded. The Odyssey's guns lit up the blackness of space, a barrage of plasma and energy slamming into the Varric ship's weakened reactor. The explosions on the Varric ship were violent, massive clouds of fire and debris spewing out as its shields flickered and failed. The ship groaned as it began to drift, its movements erratic. "We've done it," Sanders shouted. "Their reactor's critical. They're going down." Evelyn allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction before the next wave of Varric ships closed in on them. They couldn't afford to celebrate just yet. They were still deep in enemy territory, and they knew the Varric would be relentless. But there was no turning back now. The heart of the Architects was within reach. The Odyssey was battered, but still standing. "Kira, set a course for the heart," Evelyn ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "We've got what we came for. Now let's finish this." Kira nodded, quickly recalibrating the ship's navigation system as the wreckage of the Veric battleship drifted in their wake. The stars beyond were quiet now, the rumble of battle fading as the crew focused on their next mission. The Odyssey was battered and bruised, but it had done its part. Evelyn's gaze lingered on the tactical display as she watched the map of the system unfold before them. The coordinates were set. The heart of the architects was within their reach. All that stood between them and the ultimate weapon was one final stretch of space, and Evelyn was determined to make it. "Full speed ahead," she ordered. With a final roar, the Odyssey surged forward, racing toward the unknown and the ultimate battle for the galaxy's future. The Odyssey surged through space, its battered hull holding together just long enough to carry them toward their final destination. The crew was exhausted, each one battered by the brutal combat they'd just endured, but there was no time to rest. The heart of the architects was within reach, and Evelyn knew that every second counted. "Captain," Kira's voice cut through the tension, "we're approaching the heart's coordinates. There's a large gravitational anomaly ahead. It's pulling us in." Evelyn's eyes narrowed as she peered at the display. The heart of the architects wasn't just a point on a map. It was a force, a gravitational anomaly so powerful that it could pull entire fleets into its depths. The closer they got, the more dangerous it became, but they couldn't stop now. "Full power to the engines," Evelyn commanded. "We're not stopping until we reach it." The ship shook violently as they neared the anomaly, the gravitational pull intensifying. Kira fought with the controls, trying to keep them steady as the Odyssey was drawn closer to the dark heart of the system. "Captain, the Veric are closing in," Sanders shouted from his station. "We've got reinforcements on our tail." "They're not going to stop us," Evelyn replied, her voice cold with determination. "All hands, brace for impact." As the Odyssey fought against the pull of the gravitational anomaly, the Veric ships appeared in droves. Smaller craft darted around them, their weapons firing with deadly accuracy. Evelyn watched as their shields flickered, barely holding up against the barrage. She had no intention of letting the Veric stop them now. "Kira, get us past them," Evelyn ordered. Kira's fingers danced across the controls, steering the ship as they swerved to avoid enemy fire. The Odyssey's agility was its greatest asset, but even that was being tested to its limits. Every explosion rocked the ship, the sound of the battle filling the air like a drumbeat of destruction. But they were moving forward, inch by inch. The gravitational anomaly was now only moments away. The Odyssey's engines screamed as they pushed the ship forward, fighting against the immense force that threatened to pull them in. But Evelyn could see the heart now, an immense structure, floating at the center of the anomaly. It was a massive, pulsating orb, radiating energy that hummed with the power of the architect's technology. It was beautiful in its own terrifying way, and it called to her like a dark, irresistible force. "There it is," Evelyn whispered. "We've made it." But their victory was short-lived. The Veric ships closed in, surrounding them from all sides, cutting off their escape route. The Odyssey was trapped in a ring of enemy fire, with no way out. "We can't fight them all off," Kira said, her voice tight with fear. "Not in this state." Evelyn's eyes flicked to the massive heart of the architects, the glowing orb just ahead. It was their only chance. "We don't need to fight them off," Evelyn said, her mind racing. "We need to reach the heart. If we can get close enough, we might be able to access its power and use it against the Veric." "Are you sure?" Sanders asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "We don't know what will happen when we get too close. This thing could destroy us." "We have no other choice," Evelyn replied. "We have to risk it." The Varric won't stop. We're the last line of defense. As the Odyssey made its final push toward the heart, the Varric ships closed in. The space around them exploded in a blinding flash of light as enemy fire rained down on the ship. The Odyssey rocked violently, alarms blaring as critical systems began to fail. But they were close now, so close to the heart that Evelyn could feel the energy from it seeping into her very bones. "Ready the systems," she commanded. "If we're going to do this, we have to do it now." The crew scrambled to their stations, preparing for whatever they were about to unleash. Kira worked feverishly at her console, accessing every system she could, while Sanders and his team made sure their weapons were ready. And then, as they neared the heart's surface, a strange, low hum filled the ship, like a song that resonated deep within their minds. The Odyssey's systems hummed with the same energy, reacting to the massive structure before them. It was as if the heart was alive, aware of their presence. "Captain," Kira said, her voice trembling, "it's responding to us. I'm reading a massive power surge. It's like it recognizes us." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. The heart was not just a weapon, it was something far greater. It had been waiting for this moment, for the one race that could activate its true power. Humanity was not just the key to defeating the Varric. It was the key to unlocking the heart itself. "Brace yourselves," Evelyn said. "We're about to make history." With a final, desperate lurch, the Odyssey was drawn toward the heart. The ship's systems groaned under the pressure, but they held. And then, as they passed through the event horizon of the anomaly, everything went silent. The ship was enveloped in a blinding light, and for a moment, Evelyn thought she had lost consciousness. But then the energy surged within her, filling her mind, her body, and her soul with a power she couldn't comprehend. The heart of the architects had awakened, and with it, the fate of the galaxy. "We have control," Kira gasped. I can feel the power. It's incredible." Evelyn's eyes widened as the Odyssey's systems came to life, flooding the ship with energy. The heart had recognized them, had chosen them. And now they had the power to defeat the Varric, and to end the war once and for all. But as the Varric ships closed in, Evelyn knew that this final battle would not be easy. The heart had granted them power, but it had also made them a target. The Varric would come for them with everything they had. "Get ready," Evelyn said, her voice filled with resolve. "This ends now." The final battle for the galaxy's future had begun.